Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. So Terri Harper wins a world title belt in a third division. This one's at lightweight, down at lightweight, because she began her championship reigns as a super feather, got done by Alicia Baumgardner, moved all the way up to 154, she was never a 154-pound girl. Outpointed a badly cut Hannah Rankin. She made a defence of the belt and then lost. She moved down to welterweight, got battered by Sandy Ryan, retired after 4 rounds, and it was pretty evident that the weight was just too big for her. Sandy's a big welterweight, just basically beat up Terri. So Terri thought, okay, I'll go back down to lightweight, took on the WBO undefeated champ Rhiannon Dixon and outpointed her. And I think this was Terri's best performance, to be honest with you. Rhiannon was 10 wins, no draws, no defeats, and she'd won belts at she'd won three different belts and sort of jumped right up to world level. She won the Commonwealth belt, then the EBU belt, and then she won the WBO lightweight belt, which was vacant from Karen Carbajal. So after 10 fights, she was a world champ. It's not that unusual in the women's game for women with very few fights to pick up world titles, because there is a dearth of talent. But at 29, not young and not old, is it? For a fighter, she's not a baby, but at the same time, she's not old, not middle age in fighting terms. Southpaw Rhiannon is, but this was always going to be a test for her, because Terri, having moved up and down the weights, having had world title fights before at different weights, she will have had that experience, and also coming off the back of that, beating up by Sandy Ryan, to go back down to your natural weight, having fought, bigger women, it's going to seem, fighting the smaller girls, it's going to seem, maybe in terms of skill, it might be even worse, because sometimes the smaller girls are faster. But in terms of physicality and weight of punch, chances are you're going to be, more acclimatized to dealing with the power of the smaller girls. And that seemed to be the case, because Terri began very, very intelligently, very slick. She's always had good skills, some nice boxing going on. Rhiannon's southpaw stance didn't seem to bother her. Terri used her feet very well. The thing about Terri is that she's got the skills, but there's always been the feeling has always been she can be a bit intimidated. She can, if you put the heat on her, she can unravel. She seemed, during the build-up to the Baumgardner fight, she seemed a little bit, I don't know whether intimidated is the word, but a little bit put out the place, even though she was the champion. Baumgardner was, giving it large on stage during the weigh-in and everything, and trying to intimidate Terri. But Baumgardner's a big, big puncher. And you did get the feeling that Terri, maybe she was struggling at that super featherweight limit, but it weren't a great performance. And she actually got knocked out on her feet. The referee saved her from being knocked flat, because he jumped in when Terri was sort of dazed and about to go down. In terms of being back at lightweight, like I say, pretty much a luxury for her, having fought at welterweight and super welterweight. But nevertheless, it wasn't all one-way traffic, because even though Terri was using those skills, and certainly by the halfway mark, I had her 4-1 up in rounds, you could tell that Rhiannon was thinking, I'm going to have to get my skates on here. And there was urgency from Anthony Croller in the corner saying, okay, you've got to put it together. And she did that. And then in, I think, probably the 5th round, maybe the sixth round, I think it was the 6th round, she started to really put some pressure on. And this was kind of like when Dubois fought Jarrell Miller. In the middle of that fight, there was a little sort of crossroads moment where Dubois was feeling the heat from Miller. The pressure was coming on, and it was a case of, am I going to unravel, or am I going to fight back? Am I going to ride out the storm? Well, Dubois did it against Miller and ended up stopping him. And sure enough, Terri Harper showed her experience by riding out that storm, even though she was taking some flush shots. And it was that 6th round was clearly around for Rhiannon Dixon. She was able to regroup and come back with use those skills, use those slick feet and everything, and she was ended up, counter punching very, very well and being first to the punch. And Rhiannon ended up, I mean, from about the fourth round on, she had blood coming out of her nose, bleeding nose. But she started to look a bit beaten up towards the end of the fight, even though I gave her, I think, probably at least another round. I think I had 97, 93, which is what one of the judges had it, or maybe two of the judges had it. But she was she was beaten to the punch. She was landing her own punches, but Terri was taking them and coming back with her own artillery. And it was, I kind of got the feeling that Terri's schooling and slickness was a factor, but also the experience. The fact that over these 10-2s, which is the proverbial sprint rather than the marathon, she was so used to it. And Rhiannon she only had one world title fight, which was for the vacant belt. But she just didn't quite have the experience. The memory bank wasn't quite full of incidents that she could, and experiences she could draw upon. I mean, Terri had a slight bump on the head. Rhiannon had quite a bad bump on the head, but she had blood coming out the mouth and the nose. And at the end, you kind of knew who'd won. You knew that Terri had got it, and I'm glad the right woman got it. For Rhiannon, I think she was 29. I think, yeah, she can come back. This is her first defeat in 11 fights. But for Terri, pretty much a career reborn. I mean, she's only 27. She seems like she's been around for a lot longer. She now have 15 wins with 6 stoppages. The 2 defeats were stoppages, the retirement against Sandy Ryan and the stoppage against Baumgardner, both in four rounds. But at this weight, if she's found a right weight, I mean, Beatrice Ferreira's out there. I would pick Beatrice to beat Terri because I think she's the best of the bunch. There's some unifications out there, some money to be made. And yeah, well done, Terri Harper. She took that mental pressure from having that bad defeat to Ryan. She went in there against an undefeated champ and pulled it off. And she passed that test of the inner metal that every fighter needs. So well done to Terri Harper. Commiserations to Rhiannon Dixon. What do you think of the fight? Let me know. Comments below, of course, and please subscribe to the channel. If you're new, it helps us out. It takes a second, costs you nothing, and also hit the like button as well. That would be a big, big help to us. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and bye for now.